Jessica, my girlfriend of 3 years, we need to talk. I can't keep this from you any longer. My hand shook as I read it, heart hammering like a drum in my chest. Jessica and I had built a life together, or at least I thought we had. Countless Saturday mornings spent wandering through local markets, late-night drives with no destination, coffee dates that lasted for hours. All of it felt like love, a love that was supposed to be untouchable. But in that instant, everything felt fragile. Curiosity and dread battled inside me, but the instinct to know the truth won. I grabbed her phone, something I had never done before. The notifications were telling. Messages from a man named Ethan, flirty, intimate, and unmistakably secret. The betrayal was undeniable. Hours melted into a blur as I scrolled through months of hidden conversations, late-night messages, inside jokes I'd never been a part of, confessions of desire. Jessica had been living a double life right under my nose. The shock left me numb, my mind racing to make sense of a reality I had no part in creating. Desperation led me to Reddit. I typed, "My girlfriend cheated on me. Need advice." For hours, I scrolled through stories of heartbreak, infidelity, and shattered trust. Strangers shared their pain, their rage, their regrets, and for the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of solidarity. I wasn't alone in this. I started collecting evidence, screenshots, timestamps, photos, anything that would make the truth undeniable. Each piece of proof was a dagger stabbing through the remnants of my belief in her. Yet paradoxically, the evidence gave me clarity. Knowledge was my weapon now. When Jessica returned home, I waited, quiet but alert. Her usual confident demeanor was gone. Guilt, fear, and the realization of exposure weighed on her like a heavy coat. "I know," I said simply. Her face paled. I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "Intentions don't erase actions, and yours have consequences." Words failed us both. She tried to justify, apologize, beg, and explain. But the truth was immutable. The betrayal was real. Trust had been broken. Love had been compromised. Later that night, I sat alone scrolling through Reddit again, reading story after story of betrayal. There was advice, support, and empathy from strangers who had endured similar pain. And through it all, one thing became clear. I had to reclaim my life, not through revenge, but through truth, clarity, and the courage to face the storm ahead. The morning after discovering Jessica's secret, I woke with a heavy feeling in my chest. The apartment, once warm and familiar, now felt cold and hostile, haunted by the whispers of betrayal. Every glance at Jessica reminded me of the hidden life she had been living, and the more I thought about Ethan, the more I realized just how blind I had been. I decided I couldn't wait for explanations anymore. I needed answers. I started methodically. Her laptop first. Jessica always left it unlocked when she went out, a habit I had once interpreted as trust. But now, it was my window into months of deception. Emails revealed little at first, work updates, bills, mundane messages. But then I stumbled upon something that made my stomach twist. A draft email addressed to Ethan, never sent, confessing emotions she had hidden from me. "I know it's wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you," it read. The words struck harder than any confrontation could. Next, I turned to her phone. After guessing her passcode correctly, I gained access to it. The morning after discovering Jessica's secret, I woke with a heavy feeling in my chest. The apartment, once warm and familiar, now felt cold and hostile, haunted by the whispers of betrayal. Every glance at Jessica reminded me of the hidden life she had been living. And the more I thought about Ethan, the more I realized just how blind I had been. I decided I couldn't wait for explanations anymore. I needed answers. I started methodically, her laptop first. Jessica always left it unlocked when she went out, a habit I had once interpreted as trust. But now it was my window into months of deception. Emails revealed little at first. Work updates, bills, mundane messages. But then I stumbled upon something that made my stomach twist. A draft email addressed to Ethan, never sent, confessing emotions she had hidden from me. "I know it's wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you," it read. The words struck harder than any confrontation could. Next, I turned to her phone. After guessing her passcode correctly, I gained access to a treasure trove of deceit. Texts, photos, emojis, they all painted the picture of an affair far more elaborate than I had imagined. Ethan wasn't just a fleeting distraction. He was a consistent, present figure in her life, someone she prioritized over me. Scrolling through the messages, I noticed something terrifying. The affair wasn't impulsive. It was planned, orchestrated with precision. Late-night meetups, carefully worded lies, even stories she told me about working late or spending time with friends were crafted to cover her tracks. Months of trust meticulously dismantled. Anger rose in me, sharp and consuming. But alongside it, there was a strange clarity. Every message, every hidden detail, was evidence, a map that revealed the true scope of the betrayal. And with that knowledge came power. Reddit became my sanctuary again. I posted anonymously, seeking advice, sharing fragments of the story. People responded with empathy, guidance, and harsh honesty. One post stood out. "You deserve the truth, even if it hurts more than you imagined. Don't let anyone manipulate your emotions. Take control, gather evidence, and protect yourself first." I took that advice to heart. I printed screenshots, saved messages, and even created a timeline of Jessica's activities. I wasn't just uncovering lies, I was reclaiming my understanding of reality. That evening, when Jessica returned, the tension was palpable. Her attempts to engage me in casual conversation were met with silence. The cold weight of awareness hung between us like a storm cloud. "I know about Ethan," I said quietly. Her eyes widened, panic replacing the composure she usually wore. I can explain," she stammered. "Explain?" I asked, voice calm but sharp. "Months of secret texts, hidden photos, late-night meetings. You want to explain that?" Tears welled in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. It happened. I didn't know how to stop." "I don't want excuses," I said. "I want truth, and I want accountability." The conversation ended there, unresolved but charged with unspoken questions. I realized that confrontation alone wouldn't suffice. I needed to understand everything, every secret meeting, every hidden message, every subtle lie. The betrayal wasn't just about Jessica. It involved Ethan, possibly others, and a web of deception I was only beginning to untangle. Over the next few days, I expanded my investigation. Social media accounts, hidden interactions, timestamps, even location data. I pieced together a pattern that made the betrayal undeniable. Ethan wasn't just a secret. He was a central figure in Jessica's deception, and the thought of how brazen they had been fueled a mixture of anger, sadness, and determination. One night, I discovered a private Instagram account Jessica had made under a fake name. Photos of her and Ethan laughing in restaurants I'd never been to, selfies with captions meant only for him, moments deliberately hidden from me. The depth of deceit was staggering. I printed everything, organized it chronologically, and sat back. I felt a strange combination of exhaustion and resolve. This wasn't about revenge, at least not yet. It was about clarity, justice, and reclaiming control of my life. Jessica noticed the change in me, my cold composure, my quiet intensity. She tried to apologize, to rationalize, even to manipulate, but I didn't respond emotionally. The power had shifted. I was no longer the naive partner. I was the observer, the one who knew, the one who controlled the narrative. I realized something profound. Betrayal isn't just about lies or physical acts. It's about the control someone exerts over your perception, your trust, and your reality. And now the control had shifted. That night, I returned to Reddit. Reading others' experiences, advice, and confessions reminded me that I wasn't alone, that survival and growth were possible. And I knew the next step was inevitable. Confronted Ethan directly. After confronting Jessica with the full scope of her betrayal, the apartment felt heavier than ever. The familiar walls, once comforting, now seemed to close in, echoing the lies that had filled every corner of our life. Jessica moved silently, avoiding eye contact, while I methodically reviewed every piece of evidence I had collected. Betrayal, I realized, was not a single act. It was a series of deliberate decisions that shaped the life I thought I knew. I decided it was time to confront Ethan. I needed to see his reaction firsthand, to understand his role in this, and to reclaim control over the situation. I messaged him, careful to remain calm and non-provocative. We need to meet. Alone. It's about Jessica. When we met at a quiet cafe, Ethan smiled confidently, unaware of the folder of evidence I had prepared. That smile faded the moment he saw it. What is all this? He asks nervously. All of it. Every secret meeting, every message, every lie. I know everything about your affair with Jessica. His bravado faltered. He tried to speak, to rationalize, but I cut him off. Don't. Save your excuses. This isn't about words. It's about actions, and yours speak louder than any explanation you can give. I watched as the reality sank in. He realized that the web of deception he had woven so confidently was unraveling. And for the first time, I felt a shift in power. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was in control. Back at home, Jessica's demeanor grew more desperate. She tried to apologize, to beg, to offer promises that sounded hollow even to her. Please, I can fix this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll do anything, she pleaded. I shook my head. It's too late for that. Actions have consequences, Jessica. Some choices can't be undone. Her sobs filled the apartment, but I remained composed. I realized that my strength came not from anger, but from clarity. I had seen the full scope of betrayal, and I had prepared myself to face it head-on. I returned to Reddit, seeking guidance on what to do next. Stories of others who had faced infidelity and deception reinforced a crucial truth. Survival doesn't come from revenge, but from awareness, evidence, and the ability to reclaim your life. Additional people, friends and acquaintances who had been unwittingly complicit, keeping secrets, providing cover, or simply turning a blind eye. Betrayal, I realized, often involves an ecosystem, not just a single act. I began organizing everything into a comprehensive timeline. Jessica, Ethan, the secondary players, locations, times, and emotional manipulations. Every detail mattered. Every proof strengthened my understanding and my position. The psychological impact was profound. Every glance at Jessica, every casual attempt at conversation reminded me of the trust that had been shattered. I noticed the small manipulations she still attempted, subtle words, soft smiles, gestures meant to sway me, but I remained unshaken. The balance of power had shifted completely. Ethan remained a shadow over our life. Though I had confronted him, the emotional residue lingered. I realized that Jessica's betrayal had not been a simple lapse of judgment. It was a complex pattern of lies, emotional manipulation, and selfish prioritization. And untangling it required not only evidence, but strategy, patience, and emotional control. I set boundaries. No more unnecessary conversations, strict control over digital access, and clear mental separation. The apartment, once a place of comfort, became a zone of observation, reflection, and careful planning. I wasn't just surviving, I was preparing for the final steps, for confrontation, for resolution. Finally, I decided it was time to confront Jessica one last time. Not to argue, not to seek excuses, but to show her the consequences of her actions. I presented the compiled evidence, messages, photos, location logs, and a detailed timeline. The weight of her guilt was immediate, visible in her shaking hands, her downcast eyes, and her inability to speak. I can't believe it came to this," she whispered. "I don't need you to believe it," I said. "I need you to understand. You made your choices, and now you live with the consequences." Her sobs filled the room, but they didn't alter the reality. The betrayal was complete, undeniable, and irreversible. And for the first time, I felt a sense of power, clarity, and freedom. The storm had intensified, but the eye of clarity was within reach. The next step, the final confrontation with Ethan and the decision about Jessica's role in my life, was approaching. The day of reckoning finally arrived. I knew confronting Ethan and facing the truth head-on was inevitable. Months of lies, hidden messages, and secret meetings had brought us here, and there was no turning back. I needed closure, not just for myself, but to reclaim control over a life Jessica and Ethan had tried to manipulate. I arranged to meet Ethan at a quiet park. No witnesses, no distractions, just truth. He arrived, smiling like he always did, the confidence of someone who believed they were untouchable. That smile vanished the instant I opened the folder filled with months of evidence, screenshots, timelines, photos, and messages. You have all of this?" he asked, shock edging his words. "I have everything," I said calmly. "Every lie, every secret meeting, every manipulation. I know about you and Jessica. I know everything." He tried to speak, then faltered, realizing that words would no longer protect him. His arrogance crumbled, replaced by unease. I didn't mean—" "Save it," I interrupted. "Intentions don't erase actions. Your choices have consequences, and now you're facing them." For the first time, I saw genuine fear. Ethan understood that the web he had carefully woven was now unraveling, and there was no escape. The power had shifted completely. Meanwhile, Jessica's presence at home became unbearable. She tried to appeal to emotions, apologize, beg, and manipulate, but I remained composed. Her sobs, apologies, and pleas couldn't undo the months of betrayal. I realized that forgiveness is not automatic, it's earned, and sometimes the damage is too deep to repair. "I can't be with you anymore," I said quietly, meeting her gaze. "Not after everything. Maybe someday I can forgive, but I cannot forget. And trust? It's gone." The days that followed were suffocating. Jessica went about her routine as if nothing had changed, but every glance, every gesture betrayed the tension between us. Her phone never left her hand, her eyes darted nervously whenever I approached, and the warmth I once associated with her presence had vanished. I realized something painfully clear. Betrayal doesn't just alter trust, it changes the entire atmosphere of your life. I dove deeper into Ethan's world. Social media profiles, old messages, tagged photos, mutual friends, everything became part of the investigation. I wasn't acting out of petty revenge. I needed the full picture. Understanding the network of deception meant regaining control over my own life. What shocked me most was how carefully orchestrated everything had been. Jessica hadn't slipped once. She had planned, timed, and executed her affair with precision. Every lie I had believed, every excuse I had accepted, had been a tool to keep me in the dark. And Ethan? He wasn't just complicit, he was brazen, confident that the truth would never surface. I started keeping a meticulous log: dates, times, locations, screenshots, and copies of every digital footprint. Each piece of evidence reinforced a single undeniable truth. I had been deceived on multiple levels by someone I had trusted with my life. Reddit became my sanctuary, a place to process the chaos. I posted fragments of my story, seeking advice and empathy. Strangers validated my feelings, confirmed my suspicions, and offered guidance. One comment stood out: "You think you know someone, you think you trust them, and then you discover a life they built without you in it. There's no pain like it, but knowledge is power. Use it wisely." The advice resonated. Knowledge had shifted the balance. For the first time, I didn't feel helpless. I wasn't lost in a haze of betrayal. I was armed with clarity. One evening, I confronted Jessica again. "I know about the meetups," I said, calmly, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Her face went pale. I can explain," she whispered. "Explain what?" I asked, holding up my phone to display a timeline of screenshots and messages. Months of planning, secret meetings, lies after lies. How do you explain that? Tears streamed down her face. She tried to speak, then faltered, realizing that words couldn't undo actions. She had crossed a line from which there was no return. But even as her guilt and fear filled the room, I noticed something else: subtle evidence of manipulation. Jessica hadn't acted alone in controlling her narrative. Friends, acquaintances, even coworkers had been unwitting participants, either encouraging secrecy or turning a blind eye. Betrayal, I realized, often requires a supporting cast. I turned my attention back to Ethan. Messages showed he had encouraged, rationalized, and in some cases, orchestrated the encounters. The audacity was staggering. He didn't just cheat with Jessica, he inserted himself into my life in ways I hadn't imagined, undermining trust at every step. The next phase required careful planning. I wasn't ready for confrontation yet, not until I had all the facts, all the evidence, all the clarity I needed to ensure I wouldn't be blindsided. The digital trail was vast, but I navigated it methodically, like mapping enemy territory. Days merged into nights as I compiled, organized, and analyzed. Each discovery intensified anger, sorrow, and a strange exhilaration. There was power in seeing the full scope of deception, in knowing precisely who had done what, when, and why. Jessica noticed my transformation. My demeanor had changed: cold, precise, unyielding. She attempted apologies, excuses, even attempts to regain control of the narrative, but I didn't respond emotionally. The control had shifted. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't vulnerable. I was aware. Then came the moment that shook me to my core. I found messages that suggested the affair was deeper than I had imagined, involving not just physical encounters, but emotional dependency. Jessica had shared secrets with Ethan, confided in him, and in some ways prioritized him over me. The betrayal was no longer just a matter of infidelity, it was an emotional usurpation of my place in her life. I felt a surge of clarity mixed with resolve. Confrontation with Ethan was inevitable. But before that, I had to confront Jessica fully, not with anger, but with evidence and control. I needed to see the consequences of her choices reflected in her own awareness. That night, I presented her with the compiled evidence. Every screenshot, every message, every hidden meeting documented. Her reaction was a mixture of terror and resignation. She realized the extent of exposure, and for the first time, I saw the weight of guilt manifest fully. "I can't believe it came to this," she whispered, trembling. "It's your actions, not mine. You built this. Now you have to live with it." The day of reckoning finally arrived. I knew confronting Ethan and facing the truth head-on was inevitable. Months of lies, hidden messages, and secret meetings had brought us here, and there was no turning back. I needed closure, not just for myself, but to reclaim control over a life Jessica and Ethan had tried to manipulate. I arranged to meet Ethan at a quiet park. No witnesses, no distractions, just truth. He arrived, smiling like he always did, the confidence of someone who believed they were untouchable. That smile vanished the instant I opened the folder filled with months of evidence, screenshots, timelines, photos, and messages. You have all of this?" he asked, shock edging his words. "I have everything," I said calmly. "Every lie, every secret meeting, every manipulation. I know about you and Jessica. I know everything." He tried to speak, then faltered, realizing that words would no longer protect him. His arrogance crumbled, replaced by unease. I didn't mean—" "Save it," I interrupted. "Intentions don't erase actions. Your choices have consequences, and now you're facing them." For the first time, I saw genuine fear. Ethan understood that the web he had carefully woven was now unraveling, and there was no escape. The power had shifted completely. Meanwhile, Jessica's presence at home became unbearable. She tried to appeal to emotions, apologize, beg, and manipulate, but I remained composed. Her sobs, apologies, and pleas couldn't undo the months of betrayal. I realized that forgiveness is not automatic. It's earned, and sometimes the damage is too deep to repair. "I can't be with you anymore," I said quietly, meeting her gaze. "Not after everything. Maybe someday I can forgive, but I cannot forget. And trust, it's gone." Her tears were real, genuine, but it no longer mattered. Actions, not emotions, define consequences. With Jessica, the conversation ended with clarity and boundaries. No manipulation, no excuses, only truth. The apartment, once a place of warmth, now felt like neutral ground, a space where honesty replaced lies, even if the relationship could not survive. Then came the final step, confronting Ethan's influence beyond Jessica. Through messages and social media, it became evident that friends, acquaintances, and mutual connections had been drawn into the deception, knowingly or unknowingly. I approached these connections carefully, exposing the truth where necessary and severing ties where complicity threatened further manipulation. The process was exhausting, but with each step, I reclaimed a piece of control, peace, and clarity. Betrayal isn't just an emotional act, it's strategic, and navigating it requires patience, evidence, and precision. Weeks later, I reflected on the journey. Reddit had been my refuge. Stories, advice, empathy, and brutal honesty from strangers helped me process, heal, and regain perspective. I realized that surviving betrayal isn't about revenge. It's about awareness, reclaiming autonomy, and choosing how to rebuild your life. I started rebuilding. I focused on my passions, friendships, and personal growth. The pain of Jessica's betrayal lingered, but it no longer dictated my life. I had faced the truth, confronted the deceivers, and emerged stronger. Ultimately, betrayal is a test of strength. It destroys trust, shakes love, and challenges perception. But it also illuminates clarity, reveals true character, and forces growth. I had survived, learned, and reclaimed my life. Walking through the city streets one evening, I felt a quiet liberation. The storm of deceit had passed. I carried the lessons with me: awareness over ignorance, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over manipulation.